So in fact, I visited a village called Tulsi in Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
I went there in October. So that village is actually called as the YouTuber village.
What are
So
you saying? Is it?
yeah, I mean, if you, I mean, Google it, you'll see Tulsi is the name of the village.
Okay.
So there is, as in that entire village, everybody acts in YouTube videos. So there are few youngsters there who have created their YouTube channels
Okay.
and they make like stories and things like from the village. So they're like acts, like they make stories and then. If for example they need a old woman's character, so somebody's grandmother will come and
Okay.
act.
Okay.
Like this entire village is like this theater group kind of a thing, so
Very
i
interesting.
i
Okay.
spent 2 days with them there.
Hmm.
So I mean their channel is called Being Chhattisgarhia. So
Okay. Okay.
Chhattisgarhi channel, so it's like a regional language channel.
And they have followers and things like that?
Yeah, they have lakhs of followers, so
Lakhs, is it?
yeah.
Okay. Hi, Professor Tanvi Gupta. Thanks a lot for joining Contra Minds, and it's a privilege to talk to you.
Thanks a lot, Swami. I'm really glad to be a part of this conversation.
Thanks. So, Professor Tanvi, when I go back to your background, uh, what I can see is that you did pharma market research, and then you moved into the semiotics kind of a change that you did. So, where did this transition happen, and where was this interest from your early age to look at marketing as a profession, and specifically semiotics as an area that you wanted to pursue?
Yes. Yes. So I mean, technically from childhood, I've been really interested in advertisements and brands. Like I've always been fascinated by that space right from my childhood. And I kind of quite early, like right after my 12th, actually, I thought of moving into the space of marketing and business. And as in I come from a business family as well, so maybe that might have also primed me at an early age. So I kind of did my bachelor's also in business management, and after that I directly did my MBA at MICA in Ahmedabad, which is a communications like it specializes in communications. So I did my MBA and I specialized in marketing research at during my MBA. And MICA, I think, is a unique business school because it has very deep specialized subjects within marketing. So semiotics was actually one of the electives that was taught at MICA. So that was the first time I got exposed to semiotics as a subject, along with of course the classical subject like consumer behavior. So kind of combining these subjects really, like that was the moment I felt like I this is something really I'm interested to do.
Okay.
So semiotics, I learned semiotics at MICA, and then I joined market research. So I worked at Millward Brown, which is now Kantar. So
Correct.
I worked there for 3 years. So at my job again, I worked on a lot of consumer research projects, and semiotics at that time was not. I wasn't getting a chance to do semiotics that often because it was more mainstream consumer research. And then I really wanted to go deeper into this space. So and kind of I had this academic interest in understanding consumer behavior more deeply. So after working in commercial research for 3 years, then I applied for for a PhD program at IIM Bangalore. So I did my PhD in consumer behavior from IIM Bangalore, and the PhD process gave me time to go deeper and study these subjects much more deeply, and kind of it opened up my learning with different methods as well. So my thesis was also pretty much in the space of visual design and perception and how it changes by culture, which again is rooted in semiotics, but also a lot of mainstream consumer psychology methods also was involved in this, where we conduct experiments, and like pretty much semiotics actually is a qualitative method. But my PhD, my research was kind of looking at it from an quantitative lens as well. So basically, it's kind of semiotics is about the way your mind processes kind of content, either branded or unbranded. But basically, it's about the way the human mind makes meaning of things that they are exposed to. And this could be either looked at it in a qualitative way, or also it can be kind of tested in a quantitative way. So I've kind of tried to have an integrated approach when it comes to methods in my research.
Okay, okay. So, see, in a country like India, semiotics is not such a well developed craft, if I were to speak. So, if I look at the developed markets like the US or the Europe, there are really specialized companies which do semiotics. So, so can you talk to our audience about what is semiotics?
Yes, yes. So semiotics actually is a study of how meaning is created in people's minds. So it might sound very abstract, but technically, when it comes to especially branding, like I'm talking about marketing, the application of semiotics in marketing. So when it comes to creating a brand identity, it's all about it's like an engineering exercise, if I have to say it in terms of what Indians understand, right? So in engineering tech, we actually use real physical materials and objects, join them together to create a bridge or whatever, right? But in branding also, it's kind of similar thing, but you're working with conceptual and perceptual elements that are brought together. And when I say perceptual, it could be anything like visuals, like if you're designing a logo also, there everything like your font or your colors, like the each and every element of the design, it can be dismantled into its individual units, right? And the way things come together, it completely creates a very different meaning from the what the final product is, right? So it's perceptual and also conceptual. Like for example, if you're creating a brand targeting mothers, if it's a child, a product to be used by the child, then it's an entire emotional space that opens up. So, what elements will bring, what kind of emotional elements can you bring together in your brand? Even that's like a strategic decision that the brand needs to make. And usually, designers tend to apply their intuition when they're designing things, when they say, okay, this feels right or this doesn't feel right. Or sometimes we tend to just use some taken for granted patterns, like we say this generally it works, so we'll just put it together this way. So semiotics actually is a very systematic exercise where you kind of decode the entire space that you're trying to study. For example, if I take this motherhood space itself, if I'm a brand trying to launch a product for catering to young mothers, I will, in a semiotic analysis, I will actually take a systematic analysis of all the various products and brands that are out there in the same space. What kind of a structure are they following in their communication? What kind of emotions they are following? So you do this complete mapping of everything that is already there out there, and it's not that everybody will be doing it in one way.
Hmm.
You'll see this entire plotting or mapping, which in branding there's something called perceptual mapping.
Hmm.
If I mean, you would have seen that two by two kind of a
Yeah.
quadrant, and you plot things, right? So in semiotics also we do a similar thing, but those quadrants also emerge from the content that we look at. So you kind of try to map that those quadrants and try to find out which of these spaces are maybe getting outdated or not relevant anymore, which spaces are really relevant and resonate very well with the audience, right? So you kind of do it in a very systematic way, and it's actually quite powerful because this really opens up the space and the category for the people who are actually working for the brand. So
Okay.
recently I had done one project where the entire team was like They told me that they had never thought of it this way. They used to think of the category in a very stereotypical way till now, but it's a fresh perspective coming from outside. It really opened it up. But yes, of course, in India, it is still not a mainstream method because I think one thing is that there's not many people who are trained in it. There's not much awareness about it, and mostly I think people tend to, what I said, prefer to use their intuition and then trial and error and then try to get things right in the process. But this exercise actually I think would be very useful. And I think one main issue is lack of awareness also. Not many people are aware. I myself got exposed to it only when I was studying.
Hmm.
Before that even I wasn't aware. So it's that I think awareness itself is something which is low. And once people are able to see value in it, then it can actually go up.
Okay. Okay. So semiotics is a very interesting area where I think there is anthropology, there's sociology, and there is psychology. Right. I
Yeah.
think it's a craft where you need to bring all of these three things together. Right. So, say for example, you study culture, you study the society, you study the behavior of people. Okay. And talk to me about how do you see these connections, and how do you really discover these observations. So it's a very, very important mix of skills that you need to bring in. So can you talk to me about how do you really connect this, and give me some examples of how marketers or companies can uncover this for their products or brands.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so basically, if you look at culture as a as a construct, right? So culture is basically a shared sense of meaning.
Hmm.
So if you look at psychology, generally, psychology considers just one individual person and what's happening inside their mind.
Hmm.
So that's psychology. And generally, if you look at kind of, especially like the Western notion of psychology, they consider that all human beings on the planet have the same wiring of the brain.
Hmm.
Like everybody behaves the same, like everybody will think in the similar way. Maybe they differ by personality. Somebody is an introvert, somebody is an extrovert, but it's just what is there inside one person's mind which replicates with across everybody's mind. That is like psychology. And then when you look at culture, so sociology and anthropology basically are subdisciplines which kind of study culture, and they don't actually study one person's mind as
Hmm.
psychology.
Okay.
So culture is basically saying that it's not that each one person is just independently has a certain thing in their mind, and it's also not correct to assume that the entire world has the same type of wiring.
Hmm.
Culture segregates the world into like groups of people. So for example, if I say Indian culture, then it will be that Indians, when you just look at Indians, there is something common, a way of thinking which is shared by all Indians.
Hmm.
If I say, like the culture of Bangalore, for example, as a city, so you say all Bangaloreans have one certain culture
Hmm.
which might be a little different from all India level.
Hmm.
And also have like a culture at a level of an organization,
Hmm.
like IIM Udaipur as a culture. So we are a very research oriented culture.
Hmm.
So like everybody talks a lot about research here, and whenever we think of anything, research is something that comes to our mind first.
Hmm.
So depending on how you define your social group, there'll be a certain shared sense of blueprint in the mind, the way people
Hmm.
interpret things, make sense of things. So when you're analyzing culture, you're actually analyzing it at that collective level
Hmm.
instead of analyzing it at an individual level.
Hmm.
That's why in semiotics as a method, what we do is outside in approach.
Hmm.
So a regular research, if you're doing like a qualitative research, you'll go and take an interview of a person. You'll ask them about what do you think, which what type of brands do you like, what do you think about this ad, tell me. So you take an interview which is inside out. You're
Hmm.
asking the consumer to tell you things. In semiotics, what we do is outside in.
Hmm.
So basically, it's that a person's mindset he has been socialized
mm,
growing up in a certain culture,
mm,
and while growing up in that culture, that individual has been exposed to so many things,
mm,
whether it is the type of family upbringing and the type of maybe movies that they have seen growing up, the type of ads they have seen, whatever magazines, all the media, and
mm.
even now like YouTube and social media influencers, everything. So all this which surrounds the people of a particular culture, we actually decode the content itself.
Mm, mm.
So you look at patterns and structures in those content, and then you arrive at the potential wiring or the blueprint that resides in a particular culture.
Okay.
And what I have seen in the industry is that usually companies, they tend to mix the two methods.
Mm,
So semiotics is outside in, and like ethnography or depth interviews is more inside out.
mm-hmm,
So they do what we call as ethnosemiotics, where
mm,
you do both. And
mm,
usually it's what we call as triangulation,
mm-hmm.
where you use two methods and both methods end up giving you the same results.
Okay.
So that actually increases the confidence that you have on your analysis. So
Okay. Okay.
usually that works well.
So if I were a marketer and if I were a brand, you know, and I've never used semiotics, okay,
Yeah.
where would you advise, we should start, okay, and how do we start uh, using semiotics in, in a brand problem or a business opportunity? So how should we start?
Yeah, sure. So if anybody is interested to learn what the fundamentals of semiotics and its applications, so I mean I would recommend two authors. They have written books basically. There's Dr. Rachel Lois and Dr. Laura Oswald. So
Hmm.
they both are basically marketing semioticians. So they are practitioners with a PhD. So basically, they have like they're academicians who then went into the industry, and they have been kind of like pioneers in this space of marketing semiotics.
Okay.
Otherwise, semiotics as an academic discipline is there like I don't like I think 1800s or
Correct. I saw that. Correct.
it's quite an old discipline
Mm.
academically, but practically applying it in the in the modern marketplace, right? So Laura Oswald and Rachel Lois, they have written a couple
Mm.
of books
Mm.
on this. In fact, even I found their books quite helpful for like when I'm applying semiotics in a
Okay.
consulting space, right? So I mean, I would suggest they could start by reading those books.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, like if you look at market research communities, right? Like you have this SOMAR and MRSI,
Yeah. Yeah.
they have these conferences, practitioner conferences, right? So I've seen every year at least a few presentations made by companies where they have case studies where the application of semiotics has been shown.
Okay. So where do I start, Professor Tanvi? Say, for example, imagine I'm a sports brand. Okay. Uh, and now I want to look at, already there are these large multinationals, and you used a very interesting, terminology saying there's a Indian culture, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, in fact, when I saw the consumer culture lab, you really were also as a group talking about what the West culture, norms are not really the norms of how the Indian, cultures are. So if I were a sportswear brand and I was wanting to look at using semiotics to do my opportunity gaps. So how do I decode culture, and how do I look at, okay, what appeals to this Indian mindset? So how and where should we start, and what are the methodologies in semiotics that's used to get to this core?
Yeah, sure. So, like as I said, right? So, semiotics basically it's an outside in approach. So, you need to then kind of define your target audience, because if it's a sportswear brand, then you can't define it as ethnic wear or some other
Correct.
kind of
Correct.
category. And if you're looking at, for example, a particular demographic like
Mm, mm, mm.
So I would suggest one nice source of getting to know what resonates with a young
Hmm.
cohort in India right now would be Instagram
Okay.
as one source.
Okay.
And so on Instagram, you will have to then look at what are the like who are the influencers that that are kind of resonating with this audience,
Mm-hmm.
and what is there. So you decode their sense of style and everything, which
Okay.
is their content, and find out what are the trending hashtags
Hmm.
in this space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like for example, I haven't worked on this category, but for example, the mother category, right? So there are a lot of mom bloggers
Okay.
who have a lot of hashtags,
Okay.
moms of Instagram and all those, right? So there are these online communities,
Mm-hmm.
special interest communities where like-minded people come together.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to sports enthusiasts in
Mm.
India,
Mm.
what kind of content are they looking? Are they
Okay.
watching on a regular basis?
Okay.
Not just like I mean, we can't look at just decoding a cricket match. I'm not
I,
talking about that,
I
but
got it. I got it. So you are saying the mindset to wellness, the mindset to health,
yes,
the mindset to the rigor and discipline of going to the gyms. Okay, the mindset to actually look at my own the way I look. Okay, uh, you are actually talking about this kind of deconstructing. This is really what you're talking. So maybe we even can take a mom example that you're talking about. So how would you deconstruct that? Because I already have a Johnson and Johnson, right, which is almost like a brand which you wake up and then you just say, there is a Johnson and Johnson kind of a brand which is already there. So
yeah,
if I have to decode the culture and then say, what, I have to appeal to this new mom. Okay. And therefore, how do you really then look at this mom, and therefore where do you look for this outside in insights, and how do you go about decoding that culture?
yeah, yeah. So basically, like when you have all your content with you, right, which we call as a corpus,
Hmm.
which is supposed to be quite a large corpus. Like it's not just 10 images,
Hmm.
at least 500
Hmm.
images in front of you,
Hmm.
and then it's a kind of like a detective kind of a exercise, a very visual exercise where you try to see patterns emerging, and the most interesting thing, powerful lens that we try to bring in is what we call as binary oppositions. So
Hmm.
binary oppositions is when you see two opposites
Hmm.
coming out clearly in your corpus. For example, like if you take this motherhood example, Johnson and Johnson as a brand, and Dove as a brand, for example, right? Dove also is in the baby space. So Johnson and Johnson as a brand, when I looked at its content, right? So there's another thing which I look for are metaphors.
Hmm.
So what is this brand actually implying
Hmm.
metaphorically to
Hmm.
something else which is there prevalent in our culture, right? So for
Okay.
Johnson and Johnson, like a metaphor that strongly stood out to me was this whole Jesus Christ and Mother Mary kind of a
Hmm.
metaphor,
Hmm.
like the very divine child,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
the mother is kind of the whole sacred
Hmm.
responsibility of the mother. Even one drop, nothing should happen, and
Hmm. Hmm.
you see that glowing. If you kind of see right the visuals
Very
that
nice. Very nice. Okay. Yeah.
Christianity, the entire
Yeah.
cultural
Hues.
yeah, as in like the technical term for it is myth, which
Hmm.
is kind of Roland Barthes concept,
Hmm.
where culturally there are certain scripts
Hmm.
that are kind of there in our mind, either through movies or through religion or anything which generally over the ages has been there with us, right? So Johnson is like that really divine child, and the mother is kind of also like almost a goddess,
Hmm.
has to, not even one drop can go wrong. So indirectly it puts a lot of pressure on the mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everything should be perfect.
Hmm.
In a Johnson and Johnson's world, there's not even one drop of dirt.
Hmm.
Everything is clean and serene, right? I think to contrast with Johnson Johnson, I'll pick up maybe Surf as an example. So Surf Excel,
Hmm.
दाग अच्छे हैं, you have seen that
Mm-hmm.
campaign, right? So that I think uh, is a result of a very powerful analysis of the space, like the binary opposite.
Mm.
So daag अच्छे हैं is actually technically flipping the entire metaphor,
Exactly. Mm.
which Johnson Johnson is in, right? So
Mm.
the Surf Excel shows kids playing in this dirty mud and everything is dirty,
Mm.
and then the brand comes saying, the brand says, tells the mother, don't worry, if your child is dirty, that doesn't mean you're a bad mother,
Mm.
because in real life things are messy for
Exactly.
mothers. So so we're moving from that very ideal sacred space to a more realistic space
Mm.
without making the mother feel guilty about it. So that whole emotion of guilt
Mm.
kind of is released, right? So in semiotics, what I was talking about, binary opposites, if you were to visualize it, right, it will be one axis is good mother, bad mother, the other axis is clean and dirty.
Mm. Mm.
So you have that quadrant
Yeah.
is a space. So most brands will be in clean mother, clean and good mother,
Mm. Mm.
that space only.
Mm.
uh, and then bad and dirty.
Mm.
Basically, these are what culturally dominant thoughts.
Correct.
As a brand, if you are able to move into that paradox,
Mm.
saying dirty yet good,
Mm.
then it becomes very powerful. This, which is called myth, as
Mm.
per the theory in semiotics.
Okay.
And this such spaces become really powerful for brands to occupy because they really become unforgettable.
Mm.
Even if you look at fairy tales, the
Mm.
characters, most of those memorable characters are occupying those paradox spaces,
Mm.
like the evil stepmother in Snow White.
Mm.
She's beautiful and evil,
Mm. Mm.
and the dwarfs, like, they are ugly and good,
Mm.
right? So those spaces actually are very interesting. So because you're working with those conceptual
Mm.
spaces, right? But yeah, as in, if you're doing a semiotic analysis yourself, I don't know, it's more like a meditative exercise, like a bit
Okay.
of Buddhism helps, where you transcend above the, like, the actual stuff which is there in the ad, at an abstract level, what metaphors are they drawing from?
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So one you said is the binary opposite. Other concepts in semiotics, which which will bring this interesting study alive. Say, what are the other ways of actually looking at these cohorts, right? If I were to call it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so I think usually it's the binary opposites and then plotting the spaces, which opens up the category. Another exercise which is usually done is what we call as the code trajectory,
mhm.
right? So it's your residual, dominant, and emergent codes.
Okay.
So actually, a code also is like a separate concept in
Mhm.
semiotics. Usually, a code is more like when a set of things come together, and every time they're always coming together repeatly.
Mhm.
Like a very simple example would be like a dress code, no, formal
Okay.
versus
Yeah.
casual.
Yeah. Mm.
So, when a different set of clothes or looks and styles come together, so we understand that as a casual code,
Mm.
and then something comes together as a formal code.
Mm.
So, it's similar depending on what your category you're analyzing. Each category will have its own
Code.
set of codes.
Mm.
So we actually try to list down all the possible codes that are there in a category.
Mm.
Usually, maybe seven to eight codes
Mm.
we kind of bring out, and then we look at the trajectory of these codes, because culture is not something static.
Mm.
It changes with time.
Mm.
Maybe it doesn't change on a daily basis, but if you see, maybe in the next, depending on which category you're into, maybe it might take a decade, or it might take a year,
Mm.
depending on the speed at which culture is changing. So for a brand, it's worthwhile to know what is emerging,
Mm.
possibly which will pick up speed in the next 5 to 10 years,
Mm.
so that they can be the pioneers in that space. So when we look at the codes, we see patterns in terms of what are the codes which are more outdated.
Mm.
Like it has been there for a long time, and now the people who are using it as more not seen as the cool
Correct.
of ones. And then you have the dominant, which is mainstream, which everybody is doing it, taken for granted. And then emergent is there with some new things which are emerging now. The cooler trendsetters are bringing it now, and it's potentially it will
It's
grow.
almost like saying that if I saw Lakme, it
Yeah,
was my mom's brand. Okay. And
mm.
that's really the code of, it's the last generation brand. But if it had to transform to the current generation, then the current cultural codes needed to be taken, implanted into the visual cues and the branding cues of
Yeah,
Lakme, and then suddenly you move it from the old generation brand to a current generation. While L'Oreal might be seen as a certain young current generation brand, but if I were Lakme, then the cultural hues that come in are very very different, and therefore how do I pick the cues, whether it could be the color, whether it could be the typeface, whether it could be the packaging. All this become very very important, and that's really how you really, if you ask me, deconstruct and then reconstruct the brand, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, correct. Basically, you deconstruct or like dismantle the culture, and then kind of once you know what's emerging, then you reconstruct. In fact, it was interesting you brought in beauty as an example, because
Hmm.
I had done a similar exercise for a beauty brand,
Hmm.
where in fact we found that like brands like L'Oreal and Pantene and all are currently in the dominant space.
Hmm.
So because we are not looking only at like color or something like that, but it's what beauty itself means to
Hmm.
women now in
Hmm.
India.
Hmm.
So earlier, like what could be the residual, maybe some of it is dominant, is looking beautiful,
Hmm.
or whatever beauty products are able to provide to a girl was a better chance at the marriage market.
Okay.
So it was all about getting married, lived happily ever after kind of thing. And most of the advertising was also around that, what we call as bohemian goddess. So
Hmm.
you had all your Priyanka Chopra and Aishwarya Rai coming, very glamorous, overly glamorous. Hair is flying, and like the really glamour,
Correct.
sculpted beauty, right? That was kind of a dominant, which has been dominant for some time now. But in our research we looked at like social media content, and we looked at a lot of content coming out from young girls
Hmm.
on social media, on Instagram and other places, about what they, when they are talking about beauty or things, right? And even some recent movies that had come out at that time, like Dangal and other kind
Hmm.
of movies, right? So where we found that for women, it was not that marriage market or that glamour attracting the other gender, which kind of defined what beauty was. It was more about power, actually, what they were looking for.
Correct.
So it
It's
was
more
looking at
about confidence. It was more about
confidence,
power.
power.
And so, what beauty gives me is more confidence, and therefore, I'm able to express myself. Could be a kind of a code that might come up, right?
Yeah, yeah. So basically it was about a very like beauty as strength, inner beauty,
Hmm.
and like even products, like you didn't want to have that overpowering glamour or thing. It's like very stable, sorted
Hmm. Hmm.
sense of self
Hmm.
and confidence. And actually, like women want to kind of focus on work, careers, and and like your hair or whatever hair care, skin care, and all, should not come on in the way of your work, basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
So products are also then kind of about convenience and
Very
quick,
nice. Very
right?
nice.
So then as a brand working in that space, then they need to pivot to
Hmm.
that side, because that staying in that glamour, beauty queen space, after a few years, you'll get outdated. So
Yeah. So, in fact, the other cultural code that I see is, say, somebody like Ariel doing share the load, right? Which is again another dominant culture that's changing, right? Which is not somebody, who's probably, a brand just cleaning white, but it's about sharing the load. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's
it-
another cultural code picked up by the brand, and then they're trying to dominate that space. So that's really what you decode and then start
yeah.
connecting a brand to that problem, right?
So laundry, for example, is a very otherwise a very mundane and a functional thing.
Hmm.
But if you connect that act of laundry to your life in general,
Hmm.
and what it how it is embedded in our culture,
Hmm.
then the gender roles and everything will come in. And as a brand, if you are able to abstract
Hmm.
from your specific product benefit to a cultural space,
Yeah.
it really helps to build the brand.
No, no, absolutely. For example, you never thought a brew advertising where the husband prepares the coffee for the wife is another cultural cue that you would not have seen in a brew advertising maybe 20 years back, right? So
Right.
again, your code trajectory that you talk about is this: if I were brew 20 years back, the code trajectory was something else. It was actually the woman serving the coffee, versus the code trajectory of 2022 is about the husband serving the coffee and yet having the moment. So that really is how you deconstruct and connect a brand to that culture code, right? That's really what you're talking, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, so like just by sitting, like we are able to come up with these examples, right? So when
Yeah.
you're actually doing a systematic analysis, you'll look at maybe like a 50 brands,
Okay.
their ads for maybe the last 5 years,
Hmm.
and like how brew like that, you might come across some 7, 8 more ads like that.
Okay.
And then you'll also find 7, 8 ads which are still using the old code.
Okay.
So you'll see those patterns in your data itself, and you'll be able to kind of, and you will know which is becoming residual and which is emergent, because we ourselves belong to the same culture.
Okay. Okay.
That's another limitation. Like if somebody asks me to do a semiotic analysis of a German culture,
Hmm.
I won't be able to do it because I don't know much about that culture.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's why for me personally, I kind of specialize on the Indian context and Indian culture,
Okay.
which I think is growing, because I actually get inquiries from uh, companies outside India who
Hmm.
are interested to understand India, because India, I think, is one of the biggest markets
Hmm.
for brands now. So companies who are not from India, they really need that cultural understanding. Otherwise, they'll fail mostly
Yeah.
if
Correct.
they
Correct.
go with without understanding the Indian culture.
Hmm.
So I think, I mean, in the international market, there is a good
Okay.
demand for
So a
Indian.
lot of our examples on semiotics, at least for the last 15 20 minutes that we spoke about, was largely on the CPG brands or the FMCG, right? But imagine today, there is technology, right? So I have apps, I have Uber, and I have Swiggy, and I have Zepto, and all these kinds of things which are coming in. So if I were a technology company, okay, and I'm actually building software, uh, uh, actually not enough thought goes into how do I even design the interfaces, the language, the science, okay, of a button, okay. So would that be useful for companies trying to do this, and are there some examples that you could pick up and talk, because these are, I think, sometimes technology is also about how you use a culture, right? In a culture, how do you really look at all these apps that are coming in and things like that? So do you think there's a lot of opportunities for the tech companies to apply semiotics in their design?
Yes, sure. I mean, as long as there's a brand involved, then you need to build a brand story around it. So the branding semiotics is applicable across the board.
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
fact, when it comes to marketing, like they say, there are two types of marketing. One is brand marketing, and the other is growth marketing.
Okay.
Brand marketing is pretty much about the perception, that the image that you want to build about your brand in the long run.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it doesn't change on a daily basis. It's more like a quarterly, half yearly, yearly.
Hmm.
And you're building value for that brand, and the images, impressions comes through more from communications, advertising, and those places. So there, what we have spoken so far is a direct
Hmm.
Semiotics has a direct application there,
Hmm.
which is what I talked about was social semiotics, where
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
understand social categories like gender and all those things. The other type of marketing, what is growth marketing, right? So that is more on the behavioral changes of the consumer on a daily basis,
Okay.
like whether how many people are clicking, how many people are installing something, how many people are buying.
Hmm.
The data driven marketing, right, where
Hmm.
analytics is involved, and it's a very quick it's more like this very transactional level
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
thing. So there, usually the abstract and the brand, those things don't play in that
Hmm.
deeply in that space.
Hmm.
So when it comes to semiotics, so what I shared so far was more social semiotics. So there's another substream of semiotics called visual semiotics,
Hmm.
which is very uh, like a very concrete object oriented
Okay.
thing, where you look at specific things like color,
Hmm.
shape,
Hmm.
font, layout. So
Hmm.
all the visual design features of anything is dismantled and looked at. The effects of each design are looked at, what it means. And I think when, like what you talked about, I think is a emergent space known as UX research,
Yeah. Correct.
where they actually try to research and find out the experience of the consumer as they are, not even consumer, they use the word user,
Hmm.
as they are using the app,
Correct.
interface of the app. So I haven't done UX research myself,
Hmm.
but I mean I'm aware that a lot of qualitative research happens in that space, where they do a walkthrough where the user is using it, and then they kind of discuss and understand the
Yeah.
entire experience.
Hmm.
So I think in that space also there is a possibility to do semiotic analysis, but it won't be like outside in like what I was talking about, looking at media artifacts.
Hmm.
It will be more about decoding the actual visual structure of that interface, because there's a lot of, for example, color psychology.
Hmm.
So color, generally we say red and blue, but actually color has three properties, right? Hue, saturation, lightness.
Yeah.
So they're like the kind of work I did in my thesis also, right? It's a more psychology based work, where you
Hmm.
understand what, like my thesis was about what empty space means
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
different cultures in a design. So cluttered versus spaced out design,
Hmm.
high versus low saturation colors. So these are more, as in it's a more mechanical way of looking at things, but visual semiotics is does that. Like you break it into specific design features,
Hmm.
not just visual. It also includes sound, symbolism.
Contraminds is a podcast dedicated to decoding people, minds, strategy, and culture. We interview and learn from high performers so that you can apply these lessons on your journey to becoming the knowledge worker athlete you are meant to be. The Contraminds podcast is available on all leading podcast players, and if you are interested in revisiting past episodes or taking a look at our show notes from this episode, please visit us at www.contraminds.com/blog. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, no, in fact, I would, Professor Tanvi, I would think that imagine I am an app, maybe doing a 1 minute loan, or, I'm doing delivery, okay, like a Zepto, okay. But there are also cultural hues that can be, fed into the app, right? So a simple thing could be, a hunger, and therefore, how do you really build notifications for it,
Yeah,
okay, or sharing as a, as a concept, and therefore in the app it's not one transactional, uh, you know uh, color, what you call as a visual semiotics, okay. I also believe that the cultural hues of actually saying that, what, is it a sharing weekend, then therefore how do you really then bring in, design that can help in that, in that experience. My belief is that from what you spoke, when you use social semiotics, with visual semiotics. I think there's a lot of opportunities for even tech brands to become, like a CPG or an FMCG brand, but not enough is being done, is my
Yeah,
thesis. And would you agree with that?
yeah, that's definitely a very good example.
Hmm.
In fact, when you talked about hunger, it was like it will be an amazing exercise to actually decode what hunger means in India,
Yeah.
how hunger can manifest visually as well. Because I remember I came across one report, not in India, where they had decoded what pain means,
Hmm.
different kinds of pain.
Hmm.
So things like pain and hunger, they are actually visceral, like they are associated with the body, but also psychologically, it's a mix of embodied experiences along with emotional
Correct.
experiences,
Correct.
right? So when we look at semiotics, right, like visual semiotics, there's material semiotics,
Hmm.
where the body also plays a role.
Hmm.
The experience that you feel in your body,
Hmm.
like for example, like a tall, the experience of height makes you feel powerful,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's why a product, like a SUV car, because it's higher,
Hmm.
when you're sitting in it, you psychologically you feel powerful,
Correct.
right? So the way the body and the mind interacts with each other, and it can be same thing can be replicated through an extrinsic visual
Hmm.
cue as well.
Absolutely, and especially when you are really talking about changing behavior through apps, technology. If you don't take the social semiotics, okay, and then start, applying it. Say, for example, the normal example I give is, so my wife orders, flowers for puja, and today the flower vendor is actually, getting paid by GPay. Okay, so it's a very, interesting example of the social code completely changing. And so when I asked her, okay, how do you order, she says, I just use the voice message, tell her that this is what I need, because she can't read, but clearly, look at the social code of how this is actually, an application has got transformed, and then how people use it, okay, in their lives. And therefore the understanding and decoding of the application itself can provide new features and opportunities for technology companies, right?
Yes, yes, that's true. In
Yeah.
fact, I remember one of my early experiences with using online payment for a cab. I took an auto, I guess, and then it was his first ride in the morning.
Mm.
He refused to take a digital payment. He wanted a physical cash because that is what is Lakshmi, the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
money that they receive, right? So it was interesting that digital money is not considered as Lakshmi, physical is. So the whole
Lovely.
cultural association of cash versus digital, right? But that was like a few years back, so maybe now uh, it's become
No, it,
different.
it has changed, or maybe, that's the way the culture works. So therefore, as a brand, then how can I build a new feature in my app where your first payment is basically cash and the balance or digital, right? Suddenly, you are able to build a differential in your application, right? Because the technologist does not think culture, code, behavior, and things like that, and that's really the opportunity for us to
Yeah.
really take advantage of, and even use of fonts. Say some fonts give me a feeling that you're sophisticated, some
Yeah.
fonts give me. So can you throw some light around how it's decoded? And that'll be interesting, because not enough attention is given to fonts, to colors, I would say to typefaces. These are some of the things, to sound, for example, right? So can you talk to us about what uh, you know uh, uh, hues that it creates in the human mind, and how can brands take advantage?
Yes, sure. So this I think links to visual semiotics.
Mm.
Actually, yeah, as in it could also be sounds. In fact, I think the theorist who we look at is Jacobson. His
Okay.
name is like J. His name starts with a J, but it's
Okay.
pronounced as Jacobson. So he actually came up with this concept that any kind of a stimulus can be dismantled into the bare into those units,
Hmm.
like font. Again, font is one big thing.
mm,
Within that font, you have serif and sans serif
mm,
fonts, right? So,
mm,
like a serif font is which has those lines at the edges,
mm,
protruding lines at the edges. Sans serif is without that.
mm,
That's a very subtle thing, but
mm,
actually, serif fonts tend to be more formal.
mm,
Sans serif is more casual
mm.
and young.
Okay.
Serif is more classical,
Mm,
right? And then if you use capitals,
mm,
uppercase versus lowercase also. The uppercase is more authoritative and more
mm,
formal. Lowercase is more approachable and friendly.
mm,
So if it's just the as a brand, if you're creating a logo.
mm,
So if you see the Tata logo,
mm,
all are all capitals. T A
mm,
T A Tata. Imagine if you just imagine all small letters in the
mm.
Tata logo.
Nice.
As in it's a podcast, so I'm not able to show it to you, like, but if you just imagine it in your mind, you'll suddenly feel that it's like a junior Tata or something, that it's
Correct, 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 correct. No,
wasn't
it's
cute.
lovely, lovely. I think so. Therefore, imagine a set of semioticians working in a technology company, decoding culture, bringing it back into the applications, because a lot of innovation happens there, but not enough consumer insighting goes into these companies. And I think there's a lot of opportunities from semiotics, is what I can pick up from this conversation. And not just the CPG companies and the marketing companies, but probably a whole host of other opportunities is something that we could look at, right? So
Yeah,
that's really what I think, and especially we can build a new semiotics line of thinking given our culture, right? That's really what I think,
yeah,
that I
because
believe.
Indian culture offers so a lot of fodder to do semiotics, and because it's very complex as well. Like I've seen a paper where they actually looked at intra-cultural diversity
Hmm.
across different countries. And if you see, for example, US, within the US, the diversity is very less.
Hmm.
But if you see within India,
Hmm.
the diversity is very high, and you
Correct.
can't even things like language. Like
Hmm.
in the West, generally there's one language spoken in the entire country, but
Correct.
here every state has its own regional language.
Correct.
So the diversity is also so high, and the complexity is so high, that I think it's important to for brands who are working in India to and have that pulse, especially on the diversity. In fact, there was one project I had worked on for a big FMCG company where we decoded the difference between North India and South India as a
Very
country.
nice.
So
Hmm.
it was a very interesting exercise. Like me personally, like I'm actually a North Indian, but I've always lived in South.
Hmm.
Like I'm married into a South Indian family, so that kind of more like a personal exploration also it was for me. So it was a very interesting exercise, because that brand basically is headquartered in Delhi.
Hmm.
Their ad agency is in Delhi, and they have been making ads which do very well in North, but they fail miserably in the South.
Hmm.
They were not able to understand why. So
Hmm.
we actually decoded South Indian movies.
Hmm.
We decoded the ads of other categories that have done well in the South. For
Hmm.
example, the brew ad which you talked about was a part of the analysis. The whole
Okay.
gender dynamics are very different in
Hmm.
North versus South within India also.
True.
So it was a very interesting exercise. So something like that, right? Diverse, even at a regional level, like if you're
Correct.
looking, I don't know, like a Maharashtra level and culture versus a Bengal level.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, which is why you see a lot of regional brands, right? In India,
Yeah,
when you go to a channel, you see a lot of regional brands, and they may not be national brands. Maybe they appeal to a certain regional culture, which a national brand is not able to really, So, therefore, even when you look at brand portfolios, maybe what you do internationally in the West versus what you need to do in India, okay, may need to be very different, because what I like in the south may not be the same what the people in the north like, and therefore I might have to have a house of brands or a house of regional brands, and yet how do I deconstruct it? Maybe there are, semiotics provides a lot of opportunities, right?
yeah, yes,
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is, IIM Udaipur has got this consumer culture lab. Okay, I was very intrigued. What? what do you do there? What are the kind of research that you do? And can you share with us some learnings around the Indian culture, the tribal culture? You talk about the how Indians really have suddenly taken interest in history based movies. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you decode, right? So therefore, what do you do in the consumer culture lab at IIM Udaipur, and talk to us about what do you explore and discover there, and talk to us about what you have learned about the digital lives of Indian consumer. Lots of things that I saw there. So talk to us about it.
Yes. Yes, so the Consumer Culture Lab, we started it in November 2020,
Mm.
almost 2 years back. So basically, I joined IIM Udaipur like in January 2020. So I was very lucky to being a new assistant professor to get a chance to set up my own lab. Like
Mhm.
it's quite rare, to get a chance in academia so early. But I think our director was really open to it, and IIM Udaipur has had a what we call a startup culture. So
Mm.
it's like not like
A
most of the
traditional
traditional schools where generally there's a level of bureaucracy or slowness, right? So here, so there is Professor Julian Kela, who is an associate professor at Nanyang Business School in Singapore.
Mm.
So Julian actually is, I mean, he's from France, but he has, I mean, many years back when he did his PhD thesis, it was on India.
Mm.
So he's all from beginning fascinated with Indian culture. In fact, he's half Indian in a way. Like he's married into an
Okay.
Indian, married an Indian person, and so he lives in Singapore. So he always wanted to set up, to encourage cultural research coming from India. So there is this field called consumer culture theory in academic research,
Mm-hmm.
where qualitative cultural research coming in the marketing space in academics it gets published. So in CCT research, right now it is completely dominated by US and Europe,
Mm.
because from decades, the academicians have been trained in those methods and they have been doing it. So
Okay.
within India, I'm talking about academic research now, not the like the commercial industry side. So in academic research within India, my own PhD journey has been that. So I was always interested in the qualitative side, but like where I did my PhD, right in I am Bangalore again. It's a quant heavy
Mm.
institute. In fact, most institutes across Asia are quant focused.
Mm.
Qualitative, you will find very niche here and there, kind. So systematically, and I think that's also because most of the academically or inclined people in India go into engineering.
Mm.
Science is preferred over arts, or
Mm.
basically it's humanities, right? Cultural
Correct.
analysis
Correct. Correct.
from the arts actually. So arts, we know, we grew up say thinking arts is like the used to be placed lowest in the hierarchy, right?
Correct. Correct.
Most of the people who end up becoming professors will come from that science, IIT and
Yeah.
engineering roots, right? So that they're really good with numbers, which is of course very important, and kind of that's where the what I was talking about growth marketing, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
booming right now. So most of the research is coming from that. If you see Indian authors publishing, but we know that the Indian context has so much rich cultural
Correct. Correct.
things to study, but nobody is doing it.
Mm.
Because, we haven't generally received enough training,
Yeah.
theoretical training, to be at par with the what it is in our counterparts in the West.
Yeah.
So the lab's motive was actually to create that space, at least to start that conversation, where anybody who's interested in understanding or doing academically uh, cultural research about India, we can create that platform and get people together. So technically, in IIM Udaipur, a lot of my colleagues in the marketing area, we all are interested in this space,
Okay.
qualitative research, cultural research, along with quant also. We
Okay.
are kind of mixed
Yeah.
methods people here. So it's kind of a nice community cohort that we have. So we pick up. topics, and then we have started working on it. And technically, IIM Udaipur's, like, our department is a quite a young department.
Mm.
So most of us are, as in, like, 3 to 6, 7 years post PhD.
Mm.
So we don't, like, we not have, like, really very very senior
Okay.
faculty here. So Julian is kind of the senior faculty who is also our area advisor. So we have this concept here.
Okay.
So Julian kind of guides us on this. So we, as through the lab. So it's me, and then there's Professor Rajesh Nanarpura, who's my colleague.
Mm.
So both of us are kind of primarily involved in the cultural
Okay.
lab,
Mm.
and Professor Julian is our advisor. So we, through the lab, basically we are focusing on doing one key academic research project per year.
Okay.
So for this year, we are working on this project which is called as the Digital Heartland of India.
Okay.
I mean, we have called it like that, and it's basically understanding uh, content creation
Mm.
from small towns and rural India.
Okay.
So because when I was working, like, I worked at Kantar for 3 years, right? So when I was working there, also I noticed that the major chunk of research that we used to do, primary research, was focused on the metros.
Exactly.
It used to be Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai,
Yeah.
sometimes Kolkata. It pretty much keep revisiting the same, and then also additionally maybe some neighboring town like Lucknow and
Correct.
Coimbatore, kind of a
Correct.
place.
Correct. Correct.
But we never did any deep dive in small tier 3 and rural, unless it was a very specific rural, like, agricultural product or something.
Correct.
Otherwise, mainstream understanding wasn't there much.
Exactly. Exactly.
And even academically, as in, there's not much published. Like,
Yeah.
there's only one faculty called Professor Rohit Varman, who was earlier at IIM Calcutta. So he has published
Okay.
few papers, but except for him, there's not been any other
Okay.
from India. So so that's why we thought it's a very open space for us to explore. And for this Digital Heartland project, we are also collaborating with an agency called Stripe Partners,
Mm.
uh, which is headed by Dr. Simon Roberts. Again,
Mm.
he's again a PhD anthropologist who moved to the industry. So he had, I mean, he's quite one of the role models of in this
Mm.
space. So they do business anthropology. So he has worked with brands like Intel and
Okay.
Facebook, Google, Spotify, and all the tech companies, right? And pretty much we felt that there is a need even among tech companies and in general, to for people to understand this whole digital expansion which is happening from small towns and rural India.
Mm.
So this project, we started off with that, and then as we were progressing, we thought we'll go take a little more narrower focus so that we can go deeper. So we focused on content creators.
Mm.
So it's not just like talk generally looking at people using the internet,
Mm.
but people actually creating their own YouTube channels and becoming.
So what you're saying is, if I were in a small village, there could be somebody creating content. So, what are the primary drivers of that person creating content? What are the reason, and what then drives the community to then follow them, and therefore you are decoding that behavior and the need, right?
Yeah. So we are basically, this particular project is not a semiotics project, because
Mm.
this is actually it's an ethnographic project. So
Okay.
where we
Okay.
are actually going and talking to people and going to the towns and villages and to spending up to 3 days there, understanding people's lives there.
Mm.
So
So, what have you discovered in terms
yeah,
of
for this
while
project,
I don't even want to preempt the research, but things that surprised you, that I think is something that if you can share, that will be
yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I think one thing which because I have been born and brought up in a metro, as in right now I'm living in Udaipur, but I was born and brought up in Bangalore.
Hmm.
So Udaipur is a small town.
Yeah.
But even in general, when I see Udaipur, the adoption of digital is so seamlessly, people are so comfortable with it, like your
Hmm.
digital payments and all. Even in Bangalore, I have not seen street vendors use it that easily. Whereas in a smaller town, I think people are much more adaptive.
Hmm.
In fact, I have actually seen this whole concept of jugaad, what we
Hmm.
have,
Correct.
right? The more rural you go, the more people are self-sustaining. Like
Hmm.
they'll quickly pick up things and learn.
Hmm.
And one interesting thing is the language barrier is not there. Till some time back,
Hmm.
internet used to be in English,
Yeah.
but now YouTube
Hmm.
has videos in all languages. You have
Hmm.
Hindi, Tamil, Telugu,
Yeah.
every language, right? So if anybody wants to learn anything, they'll just watch a YouTube video and learn it.
Is
So
it?
yeah, in the local language, right?
Hmm.
So I in fact I visited a village called Tulsi in Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
I went there in October. So that village is actually called as the YouTuber village.
What are
So
you saying? Is it?
yeah, I mean if you Google it, you'll see Tulsi is the name of the village.
Okay.
So there is, as in that entire village, everybody acts in YouTube videos. So there are few youngsters there who have created their YouTube channels
Okay.
and they make like stories and things like from the village. So they're like acts, like they make stories and then if for example they need a old woman's character, so somebody's grandmother will come and
Okay.
act.
Okay.
Like this entire village is like this theater group kind of a thing, So
Very
I,
interesting.
I
Okay.
spent 2 days with them there.
Hmm.
So their channel is called Being Chhattisgarhia. So
Okay. Okay.
Chhattisgarhi channel. So
Oh.
it's like a regional language channel.
And they have followers and things like that.
Yeah, they have lakhs of followers. So,
Lakhs, is it?
yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
In fact, they also were invited by the Chhattisgarh chief minister to perform on stage for some ceremony and things. So
My interesting. Okay. Okay. So what impact does it have, Professor Tanvi, on the community, on the business, on the overall society? So a behavior like this, what changes happens in a place like Tulsi, right? So what happens?
yeah, so actually, I don't think there's too much money being earned through this.
Hmm.
I think that exorbitant amounts of money is not being earned, but it is something they're doing out of passion,
Hmm.
and for them, why they're doing it is basically they want to put their village on the map.
Okay.
They have in a way done it, right?
Okay.
And trying to bring out like Chhattisgarh's local identity upfront. So that's what I was talking about, that regional identity
Hmm.
aspect, right?
Yeah.
That's I think one of the key findings, like
Hmm.
in the studies, basically when, like, if you're staying in the metros, generally you might associate yourself with being an Indian,
Hmm.
but you might not, and you're in a very cosmopolitan space, right? So you might not that strongly say, okay, I want to do something for my state,
Hmm.
regional level, right? It's more at the level of country, unless maybe I don't know, maybe like a state like Tamil Nadu has a very strong regional
Correct.
identity. But if I say a state like Chhattisgarh,
Hmm.
technically it was a part of Madhya Pradesh till some,
Yeah. Correct.
but
Correct.
recently it doesn't have a very distinct identity of its own.
Hmm.
So we went to creators across India actually. Like
Hmm.
I saw the same pattern. We went to a creator in a small town in Maharashtra,
Hmm.
in Sangli,
Hmm.
and he kept comparing himself with other creators from Maharashtra, and he
Okay.
wanted to put his village on. Everybody should know about Sangli.
Okay.
So it is kind of that regional identity is what is driving them, and they want to bring that out through their content creation and their through the platform.
Okay. So when you really want to link it back to probably what you've always done, which is really you have decoded brands, you have decoded uh, you know uh, cultures, how a brand needs to get connected to a culture. So how do you think a regional identity, kind of a uh, say a myth, if I were to call it, okay, a brand, how do you think you will be able, while you are doing an ethnographic study, do you see connects between how brands can take advantage of this, and maybe what are brands missing, because they may actually paint every Indian consumer as one kind of a model, right? But suddenly what you're telling me is that so much of regional identity is there, that there are advantages that the brand can take. Did you see some misses that when you see it from the other mirror that you've always been?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it is a very interesting space, but I guess brands might be also like the more regional diversity they bring in, the more fluid then their brand becomes. Generally, in branding, they try to have a very consistent. If you're a
Correct.
national brand,
Mm.
so they'll have to see how can they localize to
Mm.
regional. But I think when it comes to regional identity, in fact, I was surprised, when I was talking to these creators in Chhattisgarh, they were telling me about Kantara, the movie. This
Oh,
Kannada movie, it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. Correct, correct.
like they have watched it, watched the dubbed version of it, and they were talking about that it's such a good movie. So I think even regional content, right? It's not that only people from that region are only appreciating it.
Mm.
So instead of, it's more like the granularity or the richness
Mm.
of that region,
Mm.
which can come into the content. Otherwise, you try to standardize it for the entire country, then you lose the details.
Correct,
Lose whatever that lowest common
correct,
factor
correct.
is taken in, right? So, which is what I think Bollywood is now losing out, because they
Yeah,
are trying to use that formula which will work across. Then it becomes a very
yeah.
completized thing.
So you are saying that the content is becoming fluid across geographies. Is that something that you are saying? Yeah. Hmm?
Yeah, as in the content is getting richer and more rooted in the regional
Mm.
space.
Okay.
In fact, as in this village, an interesting thing is that the people involved in this, right, they come from a family which was involved in the Ram Leela in their
Okay.
in their village. So
Okay.
technically, if you go through the villages in India, it is theater or performance has always been a part of our culture.
Mm. Mm.
If you
Mm.
go back generations, Ram Leela, and I don't know if you have seen Kantara, the movie there. It's a dance form, right? So like Yakshagana
Yeah,
coming.
yeah, 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 yeah. I have not seen Kantara, but I've kind of seen the, uh, you know, uh, the
the
uh,
yeah, the trailer of it
the trailer of it, and there are enough conversations around it.
around
but
it.
but clearly, something like a PS1, okay, of from Tamil
Mm.
Nadu, again, it's again a big grosser,
Yes,
but clearly again it has got similar hues with, say, a Kantara, because it's a typical Chola kingdom and things
yeah,
like that, which actually is
yeah.
what it's built on, right? Yeah.
So the whole roots, right, where you came from or whatever, like it, going back to the history and the roots of that region.
Mm.
That is something I think is kind of coming back in India also right now culturally.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm not sure why it is happening. Like one of the, based on what I have been reading, I see that like it's basically after we got India got independence, and then when like Nehru became like the first prime minister, and then they had to set up India as a country. So they had a choice. There are two models.
Mm.
First model was to go back to the pre-British era of India, use that as the identity, as the raw material to build India's identity based, rooted in that heritage and history.
Mm.
The other option was to ignore everything before that, start afresh, make India forward looking and align it with like move forward, modernize India so that it becomes at par with the West.
Mm.
from that point onwards.
Hmm.
Right, so these two routes were there, and these two routes are what divides the political ideology space
Correct,
in
correct.
India. So at that time, they went ahead with the modernizing route,
Hmm.
and then, but this other route was still kind of dormant
Hmm.
in people's minds, and I think now, people are now kind of moving back to this, the
Very
other idea,
interesting. Very interesting. Very
and
interesting.
in all facets, in fact, even the current ruling party, right,
Yeah.
BJP, has always been in that
Correct.
ideological space of
Correct.
using the older traditional roots as the source to build the identity of India,
Correct.
which is now, I think, now become the dominant ideology.
Very
So,
nice. Very nice.
I
So
should see this repeating even in movies and other places, I guess. So,
brilliant, brilliant. So if you were to, have one message as a semiotician to marketers, what would you think, you would want them to do more, given that it's not so developed in our country, right? And so
yeah,
what would you think is an important thing? What would you want them to do? And if you were to give three pieces of advice, what would it be?
okay, okay, I'll have to think.
No
So,
problem.
yeah. I think one piece of advice I would give, especially for marketers who are looking for brand marketing. So, as I talked about brand marketing and growth marketing, right? So, in a growth marketing context, you're in this very high speed, results driven mindset. But brand marketing requires you to slow down
Hmm.
and take a one step back and look at the larger goal of your brand, right? So one suggestion I would give is to, at some intervals, to try to slow down and step back and look at, what your brand means itself in the marketplace. So sales and pushing the numbers is there.
Hmm.
Generally, I think when you're a person who's in charge of marketing has that pressure
Hmm.
to show the sales and the P&L and everything.
Hmm.
But as in, I've seen big brands do it where they focus at the abstract image that their brand has, right? So even for any brand, even if you're a B2B brand, also, right, you can try to take a step back at times and just understand the identity of your brand and what is this brand doing in culture.
Okay. So
And
enough of that is what you are saying needs to be done. So take a, slow down, understand, and then reconstruct if and add a few elements to your brand and start to do that is what you are saying.
yes, so this, because semiotics is a slow
Hmm.
process, it's a deep process,
Hmm.
or like soul searching kind of a process for the brand.
Hmm.
So that at least once a year, if they can do it, no, it'll be a good exercise
Brilliant,
for the brand.
brilliant. Um, uh, if I was in the marketing department and I was a young marketing, professional joining the marketing world into a company. It might be a brand, it might be a research company in an advertising agency. You've been a planner yourself. Okay, so what advice would you give them from a semiotics, because I think this is something, this is an art there which I don't see too many agencies or too many companies practicing, right? So therefore, if you were to look back and then say, hey, here is something interesting, try to do it like what you said. Do this for a year. If once in a year, try to do a semiotic study. Okay, so if I were in a marketing department, how do I build the skill, and what would you urge them to do so that this merging of culture, society, behavior is very important for a brand, right? So therefore, so how do you suggest they adopt this?
Yeah, sure. So I think if a new young person is joining our marketing department, I think this advice might be in general to any person joining a job, would be that usually organizations have a very standardized or a set way of doing things, and when you're joining a company, you generally tend to kind of get tuned to those methods and those structures, right? But I think if you're looking to make an impact, then I think don't lose or let go of the creativity or those path breaking ideas that you might have. So, like for example, when I was working, also, I always tried to go out of the template, like to do things differently. And it always worked. Like I was in research, so there was one presentation where we had to generally the data was presented as saying the consumer said this, the consumer says this. So I actually created the entire presentation in first person.
Hmm.
So I am the consumer, I am speaking, so
Hmm.
it's
Very
like
interesting.
just some subtle things, but it really created that. In fact, there was one study which was on the youth culture. So I was technically part of that target group. So I presented the entire thing in first person. So that came out very impactfully. So I think it's just that as a young professional, especially in marketing, I'm saying, because marketing itself as a field is so dynamic,
Hmm.
and like digital marketing and all these things, so youngsters are technically better at it than the older people in the space anyway. Like they understand Instagram much better, they understand social media much better. So the the intuition that they have culturally, which they are a part of, I think they should draw from that.
Hmm.
And also, in case if you're working in a category which is targeting some other demographic, like which you don't belong to, then having that empathy towards the consumer will be important, because otherwise, like what I have seen, especially like students who have gone through engineering and the type of education we have gone through, we tend to look objectify things,
Hmm.
numbers and things. So we stop looking at customers as humans,
Hmm.
and these are the softer aspects of it, right? So as in they might get exposed to it in an MBA program, but still, like most of the students still continue to have that uh, more like a quantitative
Correct, correct, correct.
mindset. So I think people who are able to have both, like a quantity, they should understand numbers. Like there is the category of people who scared of numbers, like they
Hmm.
just, that's that they're bad at quant, that's why they're doing qualitative.
Correct.
So like don't be in that category. uh, like being good in quantitative is, I think now kind of like a hygiene thing. Like you should understand the metrics, but also if you carry that uh, cultural muscle, right, to understand culture, look through things, that will be helpful. And I think that is there naturally as humans, but we tend to subdue it when we are in a formal company kind of a space.
Great,
That
great, brilliant, brilliant. So thanks, Professor Tanvi Gupta. It was a very, very refreshing conversation. The idea of actually looking at sociology, anthropology, psychology, the fact that this is a missing art, and there are so many things that semiotics can help brands understanding consumers, decoding culture. I think this has been a fantastic conversation, and thanks a lot for sharing with us your ideas. And I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting episode for our audience. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Swami. It was an amazing experience for me talking to you today. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode. For selected links and detailed show notes, visit www.contraminds.com/blog. Follow ContraMinds on social media and let us know who you would like to see next on the podcast. If you're listening to ContraMinds on Apple Podcasts, do share your comments and give us a rating. We are keen to know what you're thinking. ContraMinds is also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date on all our releases. Thanks for listening and stay safe.